Welcome back. I'm Ezra Levant. The liberal mainstream media waste no time promoting gun control laws. They hate guns and rifles and shotguns in particular, even though they really don't even know the difference between a Glock or a Glockenspiel. Seriously, ask any liberal to tell you what the definition of an assault rifle is. It's comedy gold, sort of like asking them to explain how carbon dioxide is pollution. Last week was the 25th anniversary of the terrible École Polytechnique massacre in Montreal. NDP leader Thomas Mulcair took the opportunity to promise that an NDP government would bring back something that looks just like a gun registry.
We would look for a way of doing this without falling into the problems that existed with the Liberals' version of this, but we are starting with a definition of what I'm calling an obligation of result. For the NDP, the obligation of result is that the police are able to track every gun. That has to be there both for public protection and for protection of the police themselves.
But are unregistered long guns really the cause of gun crime in Canada? Criminal defense lawyer Solomon Friedman joins us with more from Ottawa. Hey, Solomon, welcome to the show. I want to, before I bring you in, I want to show you one more clip, though, okay? I want to show you Justin Trudeau's version of how he'd fight back against guns, because he's not going to let Thomas Mulcair outbid him for the left. Take a look at this clip, and then I'll ask you for your thoughts on it, too.
Do you think it's important for the police to be able to track who has what guns, including long guns? And if so, how do you do that if not through some kind of a registry?
Well, I have said very clearly, and I will repeat it, the Liberal Party will not bring back a gun registry. There are many different ways that jurisdictions around the world are looking into gun control. A lot can be done around classification. A lot can be done around proper review of the people wishing to file, to purchase firearms. There are many different ways of doing this, and the Liberal Party is taking this seriously because Canadians are united in their desire to see less violence with guns across this country. We shouldn't be divided on the ways to do that, and that is what I am committed to doing.
Solomon, before we get into the larger subject of why the media party and politicians hate guns, help me translate into plain English what Justin Trudeau said. He said that the real way to take on guns is through classification and deeper background checks. By classification, I mean, that's just a tricky way of saying he'll just ban certain guns outright. Is that what that means?
Absolutely. Classification is a great way of neutrally putting out the idea that certain guns should be banned, not because of any actual effects that they have or their lethality, but because they look dangerous or look scary. A wrong-headed approach that had been going on for years under the previous Liberal government.
Thanks for explaining that. I mean, I thought he was very tricky there when he said, oh, well, we're not going to bring a gun registry. We're just going to do classification, and no journalist would think to ask me what that means. But let's move away from the two politicians, Mulcair and Trudeau, because they are just appealing to popular sentiments, especially in the media party, that guns are bad, especially long guns, and the terrifying assault rifles. Ask two journalists what that means, you'll get three different answers. But here's my question to you, and I raised this at the top of the show. If someone was serious about taking on gun crime in Canada, they would look to the real guns used in real crimes, which are handguns, and where those guns are used, on Indian reserves and in urban gangs, neither of whom use long guns like shotguns and rifles like Duck Hunter Farmer Joe does. This is all about avoiding real gun crime by tackling easy targets like farmers, isn't it?
It is, Ezra, and I would actually take it one level deeper. Aside from just handguns, the real root of these firearms are guns that were never owned legally in Canada in the first place, were never part of the registration or licensing scheme, that were smuggled in from out of the country. So the moment you begin to focus on law-abiding gun owners, and I include law-abiding handgun owners in that, you've already missed the boat in terms of the problem. This is a gang problem. It is a not exclusively urban problem. There are certainly other gangs elsewhere in this country, but it's not an issue that you can tackle by forcing more obligations on law-abiding citizens.
Now, you are a lawyer who is an expert in firearms law. What positive suggestions would you make for tackling actual gun violence? What ideas would you put forward that the government is not currently doing to genuinely fix the criminal problem without being a fake problem solver by going after Farmer Joe?
I look at it this way. The moment the government asks the question, what can we do about gun crime, they're already on the wrong premise. That's the wrong question to ask. Guns are tools that are used in violence. They're not even the most common tools used in homicides in Canada, but they are a tool. The real question that needs to be asked is a really difficult question, and it is, how do we tackle crime at its core? How do we tackle gang membership? Why does someone want to get into a gang? Why do they want to deal drugs? Why is there a culture of gang violence prevalent in certain communities in this country? So the moment you begin to focus on the tool, you lose focus on the actual problem. We don't have a gun crime problem in Canada. In certain areas, we have a crime problem, and guns are a symptom of that problem. You never fix a problem by tackling a symptom and ignoring the root cause.
Yeah, I mean, we don't talk about how do we fix the problem with knives, because, of course, stabbings are a larger source of murder in Canada than long arms. So are beatings. How do we deal with the fists problem in Canada? Well, it's not a knife problem or a fist problem. It's the person who are using those tools. And this is what I alluded to in my monologue at the top of the show. That touches the third rail in Canadian Liberal politics, which is talking about Indian reserves, talking about Vietnamese or Asian gangs in Vancouver, Jamaican gangs in Toronto. You start talking about those things, Liberals panic, flee for the doors, because they do not feel comfortable talking about politically correct issues. Last word to you.
You know, to me, this is a problem that requires deep reflection on the part of our politicians. And that's something that takes a lot of courage, which unfortunately is absent today. If we continue to see the wrong-headed approach, this race to the bottom on gun control by the NDP and the Liberal Party, we're going to end up with more restrictions on law-abiding citizens and absolutely nothing to show in terms of public safety.
Solomon Friedman, I look forward to talking to you again many times about this issue. I sense this will not go away. More Source still ahead.